Hello and welcome back to World Music. This week we're talking about Southeast Asia, the land of bamboo and bronze. The three countries that we're going to be taking a look at a little bit more in depth is Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia. All right, let's begin. So we're going to be taking a look at 7 different sites of music. Sites 1 and 2 come from Vietnam here. Okay, sites 3 comes from Thailand, from the Bangkok area. Site 4 and 5 come from both Laos as well as Isan, the Isan style of music from northern Thailand. Site number 6 and 7 are going to be coming from Indonesia, down here in the Java Bali region. Okay, near the capital of Jakarta. Okay, this is Southeast Asia. In terms of geography, this is just north of Australia. And let's move on. Here we go. So, some background information. Let's see here. All right, just gotta get my handy dandy notes. So, some background information. Mainland Southeast Asia includes the countries of Burma, known today as Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Singapore. The latter is an island nation, but considered part of the mainland, while Malaysia is considered partly island, but is usually discussed with mainland countries geographically. Now, islands in Southeast Asia include Indonesia, the Philippines, Brunei, and East Timor. Buddhism dominates the mainland through Malaysia as an Islamic nation. Most of Southeast Asia is Muslim, though Christianity has a strong presence in some areas, for example, the Philippines. Hinduism is still found, mostly as an influence on Buddhist practices, but also as the main region of the island of Bali in Indonesia. Wet monsoons occur throughout this region, usually from May to September. It is hot and humid most of the year, though the northern areas of mainland Southeast Asia can get quite cool, even freezing in some upland areas. Rice is a staple food throughout Southeast Asia and an important economic production. A large variety of rice exists, though jasmine and glutinous or sticky rice are most common. Sticky rice, most common in Laos, and not much known in the West, is eaten with the hands and formed into a scoop to pick up other foods and eat. With regards to music, many instruments are made utilizing bamboo and bronze. Bronze is used for numerous percussion instruments, the most famous of these being the gamelan from Indonesia. But it is also prominent in mainland traditions, particularly in Burma, Thailand, and Cambodia. Bronze Buddha statues are also a major use for the material. Flutes and many percussion instruments are commonly made from bamboo, which has numerous uses throughout Asia. One of the most common, but peculiar for us here in the West, is the use of bamboo as scaffolding for construction projects. This occurs in South and East Asia as well. So our first two music sites, are from Vietnam. Our first site is the UPLAND bronze gongs, and site number 2 is the Thai 2 chamber music. So let's begin. Upland culture consists mostly of hill tribe minorities and is very rural with a great diversity of cultural practices. Lowland culture is comprised mostly of farmers who cultivate rice, though several cities as well. Predominantly Vietnam lowland culture has much influence from China, as Vietnam was essentially a Chinese colony for 1,000 years. Americans are most familiar with this country due to the Vietnam War, which ran from 1964 to 1975. This civil war between the North, which were communist, and the South, which were backed by the United States, escalated throughout the 1960s and inspired numerous protests throughout the United States as more Americans were sent overseas as soldiers. The most noted of these protests was in Kent State University, which is in Ohio, where 4 students were actually killed in the protests on May 4th, 1970. Our first site is the UPLAND bronze gongs. Now, you can find this music in our Google Classroom. So pause the video, head to our Google Classroom, and listen to the song. Welcome back. Let's take a look at our first impressions here. So the repetitive ringing sound is due to the majority of instruments being metallic gongs. Each musician has a single gong that he plays in coordination with the other gongs to create the melody. This interlocking structure works similar to a bell choir, each performer waiting for their note in the melody before ringing the bell. Some gongs are flat and others have a boss or a bump or a knob in the center of the gong. The gong is struck with either a beater or the side of a fisted hand. The type of gong, manner of performance, and contexts for performance all depend on the ethnic group and the particular use of the music. Here in the background photo, we have members of the Jarai ethnic group in Vietnam's Central Highlands who are all playing the gong. Now, some cultural considerations to note. These are particular to upland ethnic groups, and they often accompany dances. They are very common at festivals and funerals. The interlocking structure requires that each musician cooperate with the other performers. Each person contributes equally to the overall group. Ethnomusicologists often cite such interdependent musical production as reflective of communal social organization. Gong ensembles, or bands, are found among many upland Vietnamese ethnic groups, but are not typical of the lowland Viet population. Dance traditions, often animistic in nature, are frequently performed along with such ensembles. The dances are usually performed in groups, which strengthen the social cohesion of the community. Gong ensembles are often considered to have a strong connection to the spirit world. They are played for various ritual activities, such as funerals, as well as the buffalo sacrifice that is a common ritual found throughout mainland Southeast Asia. Our second site takes us to the Tai Tu chamber music. In Google Classroom, find this piece of music, pause this video, and have a listen. Alright, welcome back. I hope you listened to the song, because it's really awesome. The flexible feeling is due to the frequent bending of tones in the melody. This is accomplished by pressing on the string to change the tension, and is particular to the zither and plucked lutes that you see in this picture. The latter have high frets and loose strings to encourage such ornamentation. The neck on the guitar pictured in our next slide. Okay, let's take a look. So the neck, has been modified to achieve a similar construction that allows for this performance technique. So the pitch can be bent by pushing on the strings that are within these grooved notches on the neck of the guitar. The neck on the guitar, has been modified. Remember, this type of ensemble primarily includes stringed instruments. The dan kim, which is a lute, the dan tran, which is the zither, the danko, which is a fiddle, and the songlang, which is a slit drum clapper type instrument, which keeps time and tempo. This begins after a short introduction in free rhythm in the music itself. So make sure you listen to this piece of music found on our Google Classroom. The structure of the music itself, okay, has a melody with different variations in it. Now, some cultural consideration. The naktai tu translates in two different ways. It translates as music and songs of talented persons, naktai tu, implying near professional skills as well as amateur music. As with Chinese silk and bamboo chamber ensembles, the heterophonic structure of the music allows for musicians of a variety of skill levels to participate. As long as a beginner knows the basic melody, he or she can participate with a group of advanced musicians capable of ornamenting the melody in more elaborate and creative ways. Tai-tu ensembles are most common in entertainment contexts, often accompanying a vocalist, but are also sometimes found in theater and for ritual occasions. Now we move to Thailand. We have three different sites to take a look at in Thailand: the classical PIPHAT, or PIPHAT, the Lam KLAWN, and the PHLENG Luk THUNG. Our examples from Thailand introduce music from these three main categories. Okay, the classical category, which is the PIPHAT, the folk category, which is the Lam KLAWN, and the more popular category, which is the PHLENG Luk THUNG. Now, Thailand is predominantly Buddhist, especially in the south of Thailand. Thai is a tonal language. Thailand was known as Siam until 1932, when the absolute monarchy became a constitutional monarchy. Bangkok is the capital city and seat of government, with a population of roughly 9 million people. Consequently, Central Thai traditions dominate the educational system and most of the country. The north region is known as Lana, meaning a million fields, implying rice fields. Isan translates as northeast and refers to cultural traditions of this population, which is predominantly Lao and has much in common with its northern neighbor, the country of Laos. Theravada Buddhism dominates the religious scene, though prominent elements of Hinduism and animistic traditions are included. Thais have a strong belief in animistic spirits and ancestors, but these religious rituals are typically framed within the context of Buddhist ceremonies. The Thai language has 5 tones: common, low, falling, high, and rising, so the tone of the voice. The inflection of the voice can thus significantly alter the meaning of a word. This is important for singing, as melodic contour must follow the basic tonal contour of the language itself. We come to our third site, classical PIPHAT. Now, PIPHAT refers to the classical ensemble, P.I., referring to the reed aerophone, and pat, which is a reference to hitting, which is a percussion instrument, so air and percussion. This music was formerly associated with the royal court as much as classical music around the world. So, pause the video here, take a listen to this song please, found on our Google Classroom. Hello, welcome back. Thanks for listening to the song. Let's talk about it. So first-time listeners often describe Thai music as simply chaotic. There's so much going on. Yet the steady pattern of the ching and constant rhythm of the lead xylophone give it a sense of order. The timbre, or the tonal quality, of the reed aerophones, the P, which has a timbre somewhat like a kazoo, and ching, which is the small hand cymbals, along with the bright timbre of the xylophone, are probably the most obvious clues for a listener to recognize this music as Thai classical PIPHAT. The PNAI, which means that's the full name, of the reeded aerophone instrument. As you can see, this person back here playing, okay, the PNAI is the only non-percussion instrument in PIPHAT. The remaining instruments are either melodic percussion, like xylophones or gongs, or rhythmic percussion, like the drums and cymbals. Maori and Krongsai are other classical ensembles, which replace the P with a flute called a klui, and add stringed instruments. The latter does not include any melodic percussion, so there's no xylophones and no gongs. As you can see here, this gentleman in the middle, he's playing the gong circle. So there's a circle of gongs here all around him. The Thai tuning system divides the octave into 7 equidistant steps, instead of 12 that we have today in the West. Some of the divisions thus fall between the keys on a piano and may make the music seem out of tune to listeners familiar with a different system of music or classification of music, such as us. Now, here are some very common Thai classical instruments. We have the gong, which is made of bronze. We have the xylophone, either made of bamboo or wood. We have the klui, which is a flute, and the ton and the ramana, which are different types of drums. Here's a really good picture of it. The gong circle, okay, which you can see up here, the kongwang, is made of tuned bronze gongs. The xylophones, okay, the ranet ek and the ranet tum, which is here, have either wood or bamboo keys and are played with either hard or soft padded mallets. The P, okay, that is this up here. The P is down here. It's a reeded instrument. Okay. Is a quadruple reed aerophone. The klui, okay, is a fipple flute held vertically that is found primarily in Maori and Krongsai ensembles. That's up here. Okay. And the ton, or tone, and the ramana drums are played together, sounding out the underlining rhythm circle of a performance. Other rhythmic percussion mark the basic pulse. Okay. And so we get the klong tund and the klong cha tri, as well as the klong keg. These are all different percussion instruments. Okay, as well as the ching and the cha, which are 2 different types of cymbals. Okay, so let's think of Thai music in terms of a tempo, how a tempo is constructed. So ethnomusicologists describe the Thai style of music in the way a tempo is built. The melody consists of layers or variations of a basic melody. Each instrument has its own style of playing a melody. The gong circle plays the basic melody. The lead xylophone plays in octaves with a thicker rhythmic density. The P, the flute, adds frequent ornamentation and tone bending to its variation of the same basic melody. The drums and small percussion mark the rhythmic framework. Each cycle follows a duple meter, so in 2 time, 2 beats per measure. Generally 4 pulses, accentuating the final 4th beat. So they have 4 beats per measure, and every second beat is accented. So Thai music is end accented, in that the emphasis is on the last pulse of a phrase, rather than the first, as it tends to be in the music that we play. While musicians often listen to the drums for the basic rhythmic cycle, the the ching is most important for maintaining the tempo, so the tiny little hand cymbals or finger cymbals. Much PIPHAT music accelerates toward the end, and the performers, both rhythmic and melodic, rely on the ching player to articulate the beat and the tempo. Dancers are particularly attuned to the drums and ching when performing with a PIPHAT ensemble. Cultural considerations. Wai Kru, which means the Wai Kru is a teaching honoring ceremony. The Wai is a greeting used in everyday meetings throughout Thailand, and the Kru means teacher, and it actually comes from the Hindi word guru, right? Kru, guru. Now these celebrations honor all teachers that are currently living and all teachers that have passed. Okay, very elaborate ceremonies. Instruments are blessed during each ceremony, and students are initiated into their studies in school with brief lessons on each instrument type. And there's lots of different offerings of food, drinks, flowers, and incense. So now we come to northeast Thailand. Culturally, it's Lao, that derives from the country of Laos. Okay, Laos is a former French colony. It's one of the world's poorest nations, and it is exceptionally landlocked. Northeast Thailand, which we call Isan, okay, was and is the poorest region in Thailand. It was characterized until the 1990s as a backwards society. But the increasing migration of Isan rice farmers to urban areas, mainly to Bangkok, the capital, has brought much positive attention to the region's culture. Okay, food and music being the most visible. Take a pause here in the video, have a listen to the fourth piece of music in this lesson. All right, hello, welcome back. What are the first impressions? Well, after some initial vocal improvisation, the singers fall into a relatively speech-like vocal delivery, as if they were reading poetry to their audience. Okay, we get this very happy harmonica type sound. The KLAWN, which is the mouth organ that you see in the back here, okay, it sounds very similar to a harmonica. It has 16 different tubes, and they're all stacked and layered together. And we call it a lam KLAWN because the lam is the poetic song, and KLAWN is the type of instrument that is used. So some cultural considerations. Ma lam. Now, unlike a KLAWN musician who is considered an amateur, a ma lam is a professional singer. He or she must memorize vast amounts of poetry on a variety of topics, such as religion, politics, geography, or history. Some texts deal with kind of some interesting topics that we can't talk about in school. A little bit inappropriate, but let's say they're in the realm of grade 9 health class. Okay. During the performance, the order of the poetic verse is improvised in a sort of stream of consciousness that is inspired by the context and interaction with other performers. And these rituals are celebrated at different times of the year. There's temple festivals for New Year's, and they usually start in the evening and they last all night. I've never seen one personally, but it's something I really, really would like to do. Now we move into our next piece of music. So pause the video here, have a listen to the piece number 5. This is considered country pop. There are synthesizers and a very heavy back drum beat here. PHLENG or plung, okay, means song, right? Plung luk tung means child of the field. So song, or child of the field song in total, right? Plung luk tung. There's a mix of modern and traditional instruments here. We get a literal drum set, we get the electric piano, we get the fiddle or violin here. Okay, and remember, these are all derived from poetic songs, and they call those songs in Northeast Thailand lam. Okay, just like we talked about here, right? Ma lam, professional poetic singers. So some cultural considerations. Well, there's a lot going on. There's a tradition of crossover music here between the older styles of music that were played more in the fields with the newer city style of music and sounds with new instruments and modern instruments combined together with those traditional sounds. This type of music boomed in Bangkok, in the capital of Thailand. Okay, many people moved from the fields, from the rural areas of Thailand to the major cities, and especially to Bangkok. And this, with those people moving from the rural populations or areas to the urban city centers, they brought their music with them and their traditions of the music with them. And with this came stage shows. Even to this very day, if you go to Thailand, the stage shows are very popular. You get musicians, dancers, costumes, and huge popular music crowds. Now we move into our last country, Indonesia. There are two sites, Java and Bali. Okay, we get the Javanese court gamelan, and the Balinese gamelan gong KEBYAR. So Indonesia, like I said, falls just north of Australia, okay, and south of Vietnam, Thailand, and Laos. There are more than 13,000 islands that make up this country. Okay, it is the most populous Islamic nation in the world, and there are more than 300 languages spoken here. Now, this area of the world, Northeast Asia, and specifically Indonesia, was the focus of so many ethnomusicologists and composers. Because there are 300 different languages spoken here, right? These islands and these small island chains are exceptionally diverse in terms of culture and the people that live there. Excuse me. So the Javanese court gamelan. Please pause the video here. Have a listen to this tune. It is very fast-paced music. It has a very misty type tone to it. There's a lot of metal instruments being struck here. Okay, we can't call these xylophones because xylo, the word xylo, X-Y-L-O, means wood. And these are actually all made out of bronze, out of metal. Okay, and so they're metallophones. Okay, you get a lot of very soft sounds and a lot of very harsh, fast, quick, strong sounds as well. And we get this new type of structure coming out called the COLOTOMIC structure, where you get cycles of different instruments playing and cycles of rhythms being played and accented throughout. Excuse me. So, as you can see, we have some gamelan gongs here from Indonesia. Okay. They would be designed and tuned specifically based on this size of the gong itself and the center knob. Okay, and these melodic structures called colotomic structure of rhythm, okay, are very cyclical. And as they get played, right, as you can see, we have rest. Each number corresponds to a different type of gong. Okay, and these are the beats, and they just repeat over and over again with specific accents throughout. Okay, so it's right, it's rest, doom, rest, doom, rest, doom, rest, doom, and it repeats. Okay, it's this very cyclical melodic structure, very all percussion. Okay, and it's using very large hanging or rack gongs and very large metal xylophones, metallophones. So some cultural considerations. So Java is predominantly Islamic, like we've talked about, based on a sultanate or a king in Java, and that person is considered to have a spiritual connection, very, very strongly related to the animistic traditions. Remember, everything has to do with bringing things to life, giving things human or animal characteristics, such as trees, such as grass, such as the wind moving and giving life to things. Court music, just like in Western Europe in the 16th, 17th centuries, was popular, and it is still popular today in Javanese culture. We have the Sultan or the king, where he has his court and musicians would play there. Okay? The music all is tranquil. It all has to do with balancing things out. There's not one instrument that's louder than the other. Everything is balanced. And often this tranquility, this balance, is translated into the dance of Javanese culture. Now we come to our last site. This is in Bali. So the Balinese Gamelan, Gong, KEBYAR. Okay. Excuse me. We get a very large metallophone here, still made out of bronze and bamboo. Okay. Pause the video here, listen to this last song, and we'll chat about it in a second. Okay, welcome back. So KEBYAR music has many sudden musical flourishes. Abrupt silences are frequent, so the music has a constant sense of shifting mood. While the music is still based on a colotomic structure, as with the Javanese gamelan, the sense of tranquil equilibrium heard in the Javanese style is largely lost in this type of Balinese gamelan music. Different sections of instruments in the ensemble often have solos, where the remaining melodic instruments are silent. The embellishment element of the melody, which was subdued in Javanese gamelan, is often highlighted in Balinese performance. So we get a lot of these exceptionally fast playing musicians, and we get this weird shimmer misty effect as we listen to it. It's really, really cool, and it's very, very hard to pinpoint how many people are playing these instruments at one time. And we get to our last point here about the cultural considerations of music from Bali, from the Balinese tradition in southeastern Indonesia. Numerous Hindu temples are found on the small island of Bali. Music is often performed as an offering to the Hindu deities. Festivals for these gods occur throughout the year and mark important dates of the agricultural cycle. The character of Balinese dance contrasts starkly with the Javanese. Balinese dance is very abrupt and angular. Those small gestures, such as the movement of the eyes, are important. The sense of subtle grace that permeates Javanese dance is largely replaced by energetic activity in Balinese performance. Wayang Kulit, which is the shadow puppet theater, as you can see in the background here, is a common context for gamelan performance in both Java and Bali. The Indian epic story of the Ramayana is commonly told in this medium, as is the Mahabharata, another Indian epic story. The puppeteer and musicians sit behind a white screen. A light is cast from behind so that the audience sitting on the other side of the screen can only see the shadows of the puppets. In this way, the puppets act as a medium to the spirit world to bring the characters to life through the shadow. All right, folks, that's all I've got for you today. That was a long one. I hope you really enjoyed it. It's really interesting stuff. The music of Southeast Asia truly is inspirational, and it's something that we don't get to hear a lot out here in North America in the West. Don't forget to answer this week's discussion question, folks. And thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, don't forget, fire me an email. Have a wonderful week ahead. Bye for now.